Congressman Waters, are you concerned about sanction breaking right now with the Russian sanctions? We're seeing Chinese companies buy Russian assets, stocks. People are talking about using cryptocurrency.
Well, let me just say this. I think that we need to do as much as we possibly can to employ sanctions against Russia. If you look at my pinned Twitter, I started talking about this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that there's still room for more sanctions. And I'm looking for a particular waiver that was done on sanction for Deripaska, I think is his name.
Deripaska on Rusal? Oh, you're looking at that.
Well, what happened is we waived the sanctions, and that allowed him to go into Jamaica and buy up the bauxite.
Yeah.
And so I want us to take it back.
You want, so the one that the Mnuchin Trump's waiver on Deripaska and Rusal, you want to have that reinforced?
That's right. Well, I wanted, they lifted the sanctions.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we put the sanctions back on.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Congressman Peter Sullivan with Capital Intelligence, BBN. We're seeing a lot of Chinese sanction breaking right now. They're buying up shares, assets from the Russians, using this as a fire sale opportunity. Will you be looking at secondary sanctions, anybody who buys Russian assets?
I think the administration should focus on secondary sanctions. I think there is a growing consensus on the Hill that needs to be a reality.
And have you been bringing the people in charge from Yellen and other ones into the committee, and then, federal board chairman?
We've had active outreach and communication both ways. And I would give the administration a high mark for how they've handled this.
Okay.
They've been very smart about it.
And Chairwoman Maxine Waters wants to reintroduce sanctions on Rusal. Would you be agreeable to that?
Yes.
So both the ranking member and the chair want to see Rusal sanctions again. Thank you, sir.
They've been successful. This is one area where I think the administration has done the proper and necessary work to bring the Europeans along and to have a Western world perspective and unity around sanctioning people and institutions in a very smart and targeted way. Those sanctions have had real results. The fact that we're sanctioning the Russian central bank means that they can't support the ruble. That is a powerful, powerful tool. But it's only powerful because we have the Europeans with us. And it's only powerful because we have a united approach with this. So the diplomacy piece of how the administration's brought along the Europeans should be commended. Now, there's a debate about our use of sanctions as a nation state. The reason why our sanctions matter, and in this context, why the European sanctions matter even more, is that 40% of the Russian trade is with Europe. We're a very small piece of Russian trade. Because of that, your currency and your banking relationships, your economic relationships, are only as important as your use of those institutions, right? So we can sanction every North Korean we want, but there are no North Koreans banking in the United States. So it's ineffective. So we have to bring along those that are closest to the action. The Germans right now, because of their decision on oil and natural gas, are very beholden to Russian oil and natural gas, which is among the worst polluters in the world are Russian drillers for oil and natural gas. But it's a different conversation for a different day. The fact that the Germans are doing something that is in direct conflict to their economy should be commended. And especially for a new government to stand up, absolutely should be commended.
That's bold. And so what should bankers, the people in the room, what should we know of what to expect? What can we expect in the next, say, weeks or months?
It's going to get a lot worse, unfortunately for the Ukrainian people. We will have a higher obligation to mainland Europe than we've had in the last 30 years. At the end of the Cold War, there was this belief that we'd have this peace dividend, And so we've taken our strength of American soldiers on the mainland way down. We've taken our equipment way down over the last 30 years. That will look different over the next decade because of Putin's aggression. We have an obligation to Poland and NATO members that is historic and important. If we don't keep our word there, then look globally at all the secondary effects, namely China. Our trade with Russia versus our trade with China. We trade with China. 2 weeks of trade with China equals a full year of Russian-American trade. So let's not keep the eye off the ball here. The Chinese have aggression, not just with what they're doing in Hong Kong, but in Taiwan as well.
Well, that's a great way to put it into perspective. Well, as you said earlier, elections have consequences. And we have an election in November. And so